Welcome back, colleagues. Welcome back. We are beginning right now. Okay, so let us now proceed with session 4, which addresses preparation and submission of notifications, national perspectives. In this session, members will be invited to discuss the procedures for submitting SPS notifications to the WTO, including via the EPING SPS and TBT platform. I will ask the speakers for this session that are already here with us in the podium, and those who are joining us online to please press the raise hand button if that's the case. I will first give the floor to Dr. Maya Beruashvili, Head of Food Safety Division at the Ministry of Environmental Protection and Agriculture in Georgia, who will be presenting on the preparation and submission of notifications. Dr. Beruashvili, who is present with us here on the podium, the floor is yours.
Greetings, everyone. So my name is Maya Beruashvili. I'm from Georgia and working at the Ministry of Environmental Protection and Agriculture of Georgia. It's my pleasure to be here and share our experience regarding the national perspectives regarding notification, preparation, and submission through the EPING SPS TBT platform. I'd like also to express my gratitude to the SPS team for such possibility that I'm here and I can talk our experience regarding our experience. Let's start with which ones? It does not work.
Yeah.
I will. Let's start with the introduction of my presentation context. I will make a brief introduction of my country regarding the SPS measures, the old party structure and their roles, what challenges we have, EPING platform benefits, and further steps. Let's start with brief introduction of my country. So, in 2014, Georgia signed the deep and comprehensive free trade agreement with the EU. And this agreement is a very huge document, and it also includes SPS measures. And according to this SPS measures, which facilitates the trade between us, according to this agreement, we made a list of those SPS EU regulations and directives which have to approximate. And this list contains at least 270 EU normative acts, and we are obliged to approximate all of these documents till 2027. So each year, Georgia have to approximate at least 25 EU legal acts, which is quite big amount for us. Here is indicated the involved parties. The National Notification Authority is a ministry. We call it MEPA as an abbreviation. And under MEPA, there is a Food Policy Department where I am working, and I'm also the National Inquiry Point appointed by the MEPA. And our department is responsible for elaboration of food, feed safety, veterinary and plant protection regulations. And under the ministry, we have also the National Food Agency, we call it with abbreviation NFA, who is implementing body of those regulations which are drafted in the ministry. According to the ministerial orders, National Notification Authority decided to give me notification admin rights, and the notification admin rights has right to draft and submit notification and grant notification drafting and or submitting rights to regular users. And we have also regular users. Those are my colleagues who works under the ministry in my department, and they have notification drafting rights. Only national inquiry point has the right to submit in our country to submit the notifications to the SPS committee. Notification admin rights. Admin rights also can also see and manage the list of domestic users with notification drafting and or notification submission rights by clicking on manage users. Unfortunately, in our country, not a lot of users are registered in this system. Only from the national services, from the ministry, from our department and academies, but the business sectors are not, these systems are not covered in our country business sectors, but we have to work in this direction, and we plan to do more related to this. As I told, as I told, legislation, we have legislation working groups, and we have free legislation working groups in our ministry, namely in our department. One works for the direction of the food safety, one on veterinary issues, and one on the plant protections. And the head of these working groups, we are trained by me in filling of the notifications. For comments distributions, to this moment, we don't use the e-pink system. Mainly, we do it by the mail groups. We create the mail groups with the local exporters, importers, producers, and we send the mails to them. For example, the elaborated version of the draft of the legislation, and we try to communicate in such way with them, or sometimes we invite them, especially the associations or the big producers, and we try to communicate it directly face to face with them. And recently, a few years ago, we created under the ministry standard operation procedure, in which cases and when to prepare a notification draft, and this standard operation procedure is elaborated according to SPS agreement. And according to this SOP, standard operation procedures, head of working group is responsible to draft notification. So these persons are given to notification drafting rights by me in the e-pink system. After drafting, the national inquiry point review it, check if it's completed correctly, and if something is needed, I correct it, and then I submit the notification to the secretariat. And after approval of the secretariat, it's appear on the system, or they give us back to make amendments or any changes in the notification. So I will introduce also the process of the drafting of the notification through the pink system, with the persons who has right to draft the notifications. Start with this button, submit notification. You just click on the submit notification, and you see submission menu. Here is the regular notification, and they start filling each point, each bullet. But I think that number 3 and number 6 is more important to be very precise and clear. Because we had the case, then there was missing in the we uploaded the health certificate, veterinary health certificate of the animal byproducts, and there was missing pet animals food, and it caused a lot of problem for us later. That's why it's my advice to be careful when you are submitting with HS codes. And the number 6, description of the content. It's, of course, it's not necessary to indicate the full information, full version of the documents, but the main messages must be written in the bullet 6. Challenges. We encounter a lot of challenges during this process because the Georgia is not a developed country, and we have we have also problems. It can be resources, it can be lack of the time, it can be lack of the finances, and so on. But the most difficult part is that sometimes we have to translate documents, and it needs financial and human support also. And for these cases, we try to apply for help, for assistance to the international organizations or donors to help us. And the second challenge is the 60 days for comments. I mentioned that we have to elaborate during the year 2025 SPS measures related regulations, which is quite big amount, and it's difficult to agree with the sector who will produce or who sell. I mean the business sector. It's also hard to agree with the with the agencies who is implementing body. And that's why just 5 people working on the drafting process, and that's why it's difficult sometimes to follow the 60 days for comments before adoption. But if it's trade restrictive, we try to follow this and not to cause other parties any problems. What we found is that the e-ping system is really beneficial for us because it's make easier working process, really make working process easier. After this, we plan some further steps, and these are to use for commenting internally and reach out to the other members, especially business sectors. And I hope that if we do this correctly, it's also make easier our working process, and it will help us to fulfill our obligations. Thank you for your attention. If you have any questions.
Thank you very much, Doctor. As usual, we will proceed with the questions at the end of this round of presentations. Let us now proceed with the second speaker, Mr. Diego Shu Nakayama, Health Regulation Analyst at the Brazilian Health Regulatory Agency, ANVISA, who will be presenting on the preparation and submission of notifications, perspectives from ANVISA. Mr. Nakayama, here with us on the podium, the floor is yours.
Okay, first of all, I just would like to thank you to the Secretariat and the Chair for this opportunity to be here. And also, I'm really glad to share our experience with the members. You can do this.
Just this side.
Ah,
So,
Sorry. So my name is Diego. I'm working at the International Fair Office of the Brazilian Health Regulatory Agency, ANVISA. So today I'm gonna give you our perspectives from preparation to the submission of notifications. So today my presentation is gonna be divided into 3 parts. First, I'm gonna provide an overview about ANVISA. Second, I would give you reasons for the amount of notifications in Brazil. And third, I'm gonna talk about our experience with IP. So what's Anvisa? Anvisa is a federal autarky created in 1998. And in that time, Brazil carried out a broad reform in the public administration to increase efficiency and improve public service, which included the creation of many regulatory agencies. Uh, Among the roles of Brazil, the Anvisa, I can highlight, for example, promote and protect the health of Brazilian population and reduce risk to the population. We regulate several sectors, which includes food, cosmetics, sanitized products, and pesticide and medical device and medicines, and etc. So here, in this slide, I can show some facts and statistics of our notification. So in the left side, you can see that Brazil is the second notifier member in the WTO. We just behind the United States. And the right side, you can see that there are two, how is the division of these notifications in Brazil? There are two inquiry points in Brazil besides Anvisa. There is the Ministry of Agriculture, Livestock and Food Supply, that's MAPA. So over the last 5 years, as you can see, Anvisa, except 2021, Anvisa was the main notifier institution in Brazil. So in 2021, the reason of that reduction is because of there was a change of procedures in the pesticide sector area. And when we change it, rather than establishing a regulation for each substance, for example, we decide to gather different substances in one normative. So this help us to reduce the amount of notifications. So here is the besides also SPS, and this also notified to the TBT committee. So also here you can see that the majority of our notification is to SPS, except 2021 for that reason, the reason that I gave you before, that was TBT. So you can see, for example, in 2020, the amount of notification visa was around 450 notifications. So in this slide, you can see a print screen of a BI developed by us to control our notifications. So here you can see, I can point out that we included the areas, the sectors that we notified, also the committee that we also notify, and the type of normative. So in Brazil, the majority of our notifications to the SPS committee is to the pesticide, followed by food and sanitized products. In this slide is also is a print screen of the normatives elaborated by Anvisa in the last few years. So these include revoked and enforced normatives that now. So in this slide specifically, I would like to point out the frame in the bottom in the right corner. So the sector that are most elaborate more norms in Brazil is like in Anvisa is medicines, followed by terms versus issues, and also food and pesticides. So now I'm gonna talk about the reasons for the amount of the notifications. So first, is the scope of the regulation of Anvisa. So Anvisa regulates sectors that represent more than 20% of the Brazilian GDP. So it's the second reason for that is that the committed to the principle of transparency has been widely disseminated over the public administration. So over the last years, so this is reflecting the legal framework of Brazil. So, for example, the Constitution of Brazil enshrines the publicity as a principle of public administration. Another rule, the law that is really important for transparency in Brazil is the law that's talk about access to information, that is impose the transparency as a rule and secrecy as an exception. And third, the new framework for regulatory agencies that increases social control and imposes the obligation of public consultation. In this case, in the last law, like is derived from this the third reasons for the notification. Here, also I can point out the improvements of the regulatory process in Brazil. That started in 2007, the ProReg. This regulatory process was based on the OECD best practice. In that case, Anvisa wasn't a leader in the development of regulatory improvement. So after in 2023, also we restarted this program, and we encourage more social participation, strength, transparency, and regulatory efficiency, and etc. So now I'm gonna give you an overview a little quickly about the Brazilian regulatory process and how it works and how it fits to the notification process. Here you can see that our regulatory cycle is divided basically in three parts: the regulatory planning, the construction of regulatory intervention, and the monitoring and evaluation. So here in this slide, how it fit in the notification process. So I'm gonna talk a little bit the procedures. So after the establish a regulatory agenda, we open the regulatory process with a draft so the draft of a norm. So every day we receive from our coordination of regulatory process a summary of the official of Federal Gazette, that's the norms that was published in this Gazette. Then we evaluated if the notification should be or not submit. Then if we decided that yes, we fill up the norm. In case the public consultation, when it's the draft, we make a regular normative. So in this case, after filling up the norm, the form in the EPING, we send this to we ask it to our Minister of Foreign Affairs to submit this to WTO. So during this process, also we recorded the information about the norm in our control panel that we developed this BI before that I show. And also during the process between the public consultation and the settled normativity, we monitor regular the publication of Brazilian norms in EPING and collect the codes of our notifications. Once the draft, so the draft after the public consultation, and then once the draft become a normative, we submit a addendum. So in that case, in the public consultation, we make a great effort to give a feedback to everybody, to all the recommendation that we receive, include the country's recommendations. So that somehow is the how somehow is in this this is like the recommendation of Brazil in the transparency in the sixth review. So is that the spirit that we try to commit it with the to give a feedback about our rules. So and this so after that, so we keep it this record in the regulatory stocks. So now the final reason is that Anvisa become when Anvisa as an inquiry point. So this was in 2000, in the early of 2000. This actually accelerated the notification process in Brazil and provided a high degree of autonomy for our institution. So now is the last part that I would like to talk about our experience with IPing. So how we feel that the IPing help us in the process. So this is the IPing provide great system automation. So now it reduces the bureaucracy inside Brazil that is now you don't need to exchange mail with the secretariat to send notification, just fill it up the form directly in the platform. Also, it features a more elaborated search filter that give more filter options for us to look at the search for the notification. And last, the system I think is more user friendly that give us a possibility of create a discussion forums that we try to use as well. And then late, so to finish, to conclude my presentation, I would like to give a suggestion to improve the system. Like as a user, I feel that would be really helpful for us to add a filter to select inquiry points for countries that have more than one inquiry point. So this is would be really helpful to for us to create statistics and data. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Nakayama, and I'm very glad that you touched on the question on IPing too. Those are always good suggestions. I also note that many participants have a ping on IPing and I don't. I will now give the floor to Ms. Sally Griffin, Senior Policy Analyst and SPS Contact Point Manager at the Ministry for Primary Industries in New Zealand, who will provide New Zealand's perspective in the preparation and submission of notifications. Ms. Griffin is joining us online. And I have to say, if she is joining us from New Zealand, she is also a hero for me because that's really late in the day. Ms. Griffin, you may now take the floor.
Hello. You can hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you now. Please go ahead.
All right. Just like to thank the Secretariat for the opportunity to speak today. As you mentioned, my name is Sally Griffin. I've been in this field for a lot of years, about 20, and really enjoy the opportunity to share some of my knowledge of the 20 years. So, first slide. One of the most important things that I do within this particular role is training. So in New Zealand, the training is actually really crucial. Most importantly, because they need to understand their obligations under the SPS agreement. So it's something that we spend quite a lot of time on, and do on a regular basis to keep everybody up to speed. So today what I'm going to do is just cover off why we notify, what and when we notify in New Zealand, how to actually, some of the training materials around writing a notification, and also that ever-present dilemma of SPS or TBT notification, or both. So why do we notify? In essence, the whole word of transparency in the context of WTO is used to signify one of the fundamental principles of the agreement. The aim is to achieve, that greater degree of clarity and predictability, and information about trade policies and rules, etc., of member countries. And so that's a really important reason why we do it. Members are actually obliged to notify their draft SPS measures. So the main advantage of the notification system is to ensure that consultation can happen internationally in an effective and efficient manner. And we must notify our WTO members of our intentions if we're choosing to change the SPS measures, because of course that will impact trade. We must provide copies and links for those draft measures. We must allow reasonable time in terms of having WTO members be able to make comments through that submissions in writing. And we've got to make sure that they've got at least 60 days rather, and to actually do that in an effective and helpful manner. Of course, this doesn't apply if it's trade facilitating or an emergency. And finally, we've got to take, well, it's not finally actually, we've got to take comments into account, and then we've got to actually explain that reasoning if requested. We can't just take the submissions and disappear into the horizon. We've got to actually make an effort and to consider the comments and respond to those that have made those submissions, to ensure that they understand what our reasonings are in regard to the changes that we're proposing. And now, finally, we must provide any relevant additional information as required to help support our reasoning in regard to why we're changing the SPS measure. So, what do we notify? Well, as you will be aware, when it comes to SPS, we notify any changes in the sanitary or phytosanitary measures that are about protecting animal and health from pests and diseases, or from additives, contaminants in foods and beverages, and also to protect human life and health. Another key one, especially for us in New Zealand, is to prevent or limit damage to our biodiversity, which is a very important part of New Zealand culture. We have some very unique birds and wildlife, and it's very important for us to ensure that they are protected from pests and diseases. So what is the scope of a change? What is what constitutes a regulation? It's quite broad, and it can have many names. So from the SPS regulations, it's defined as a sanitary and phytosanitary measures such as laws, decrees, ordinance, etc. And the agreement uses measures and regulations somewhat interchangeably. From New Zealand perspective, there are, we tend to call them regulations, and one of the key things that we do notify on is the input health standard. So that's the terminology that we use in New Zealand. So it's really important when you are trying to decide whether the changes that you are proposing are actually going to affect trade. And so there's various things that you may consider. the value and importance of the amount of trade, the potential developments of such trade, and will there be compliance issues, and all those sorts of things are included in our thinking when we are deciding whether we need to be doing a notification or not. So the key thing that I get my people to ask is, will this affect trade? And it doesn't matter whether it's positive or negative, it's if it affects trade, then we're actually going to make a notification. But we have a policy of openness at the end of the day, even if some people might feel that what we've notified is unnecessary. From our perspective, it's best to be safe than sorry. And so we want to be very open so that trading countries have an opportunity to change or to submit information if we are looking at a change in the SPS measure. So part of our process is we have a decision tree on deciding whether a notification is needed. And if it leads to making a notification, then it's incorporated into developing that SPS measure. So writers must fill in the checklist to ensure everything is done correctly and efficiently. And here's the checklist on the next slide, which just gives you an indication of how complex and all the various different, this is only one of about 5 pages in terms of developing an import health standard. So as you can see at the bottom there, it is an integral part of the process. And by developing these checklists and these decision trees and ensuring that we do the training, it enables us to make sure that we actually do follow the obligations of the SPS agreement. So when should when should we notify? If we decide that we need to notify, then excuse me. And how we would do that is understanding the notification system. So as everybody's aware, we have obligations of when we should notify, and that includes when you're doing a regulation, a regular notification, that you make sure that you do it when your measure is still in draft form. So therefore your consultation can have an impact in terms of if there is some information that has not been included in the development of that IHS, that if it's a draft form, there's still the opportunity to change things. So that's very important. Of course, as previously mentioned, with doing a regular notification, you have 60 days for consultation, and then you have that 6 months for implementation. So that is incredibly important as well. Here's an example, I guess, of the understanding, back to the original slide, thank you, is understanding the notification system. So basically, let's say bananas from Pakistan, and what would normally happen is that the affected country or member country would be informed that there may be some issues in regard to a particular product, or that member country is asking for access. So then a risk assessment would be completed, and that's when the import health standard would be drafted. So at that point, that's when it gets incorporated into the decision tree and the checklist to make sure that that is actually what needs to happen. And there's dialogue that will happen with the trading country to ensure that everybody is aware of the potential impacts. At that point, a notification will be written and sent, or is now inputted into EPING, along with the actual regulation, and that would be sent to the SPS contact point, which is me, and then I would input it into the EPING portal. And then we would publish on the Ministry for Primary Industries website. And at that point, members have the 60 days to comment and get those comments to the drafter of the import health standard. Okay, so the next part is how to write a notification. Now, I decided instead of going through all it specifically, that what I would actually provide is links and information in regard to how to do this, because there's a lot of really good information that is out there. The Secretariat provides some great courses, both in person and online. There are some really helpful videos, etc. The practical manual of the WTO for SPS notification authorities and inquiry points is also quite useful. And also I have a YouTube channel page which has a number of different videos on it, explainer videos, and also there is a demonstration video on how to submit a notification into ePing that you are more than welcome to look at. And also in regard to this, that if there is any training materials that member countries feel would be useful, please let me know, and I will look at designing something that may be useful for member countries. Then the final one is this question. SPS or TBT? That is the question. But not many have actually found the answer, a conclusive way of doing this. And certainly in New Zealand, we have noticed in the last few years that the number of SPS notifications has remained fairly consistent, but the TBT in terms of food and plants, etc., has seemed to increased. And realise the dilemma of where one should notify. And hopefully in the informal meeting, everybody will have a really good discussion about that. It's one of New Zealand's proposals moving forward with the 6th review. And I think it will be quite useful. So SPS is mentioned as SPS measures, and it's about human and animal health. It's about animal and plant carried diseases, and also protecting countries from damage, whereas TBT is more related to establishing product characteristics, in terminology, symbols, packaging, marketing, etc. So I guess perhaps the easiest way to think about it is if it's not food or food related, or it's not applied to food, then it wouldn't be covered under SPS. And maybe the way forward in terms of making sure that transparency really happens right across the board in both committees, maybe developing a simple criteria that can easily be adapted, perhaps through the notification template system, so that the question is asked when you are filling in that ePing notification to submit to the WTO. There's a question that you have to think about at least, you know, and it's actually on the template. Would maybe a useful way forward. And that's the completion of my presentation today. I am happy, as I said, for anybody to contact me directly. But of course, we've got questions at the end, so I'll hang around until the end.
Thank you very much, Ms. Griffin, and we do appreciate your sacrificing staying with us until now. Let us continue with the next speaker, the last one for this session, Ms. Bahati Samilani, National Inquiry Point Officer for SPS at the Bureau of Standards in Tanzania, who will be presenting on how do we implement transparency under the SPS agreement, procedure for drafting notification. Ms. Samilani will be joining us online. I do note that we've been having some issues in getting her online, so we will see if she can join us. If not, then we will move to the Q&A session. So it seems that we still have some problems, so we will move in that case to the Q&A session. Now the floor is open for questions related to these presentations. The floor is open. I see the flag of Madagascar and Gabon. Madagascar, you have the floor, followed by Gabon. Please, Madagascar.
Bonsoir.
Good afternoon, everybody. Well, I'd like to thank the various speakers for their excellent presentations. And of course, I'd like to thank the Secretariat as well for having organized this workshop, which is extremely useful. I don't really have a question, but I do have a request to make. I think Madagascar really needs technical assistance on SPS notifications, because I am the National Notification Authority in person. I've only just been appointed in October 2023 as focal point. And so we are new in the system, and we'd really benefit from technical assistance. And indeed, technical assistance for implementing the SPS agreement in general. Thank you.
Merci, le Madagascar.
Thank you, Madagascar.
Gabon, you have the floor.
Merci, Monsieur le
Thank you, Chair Philippe McFlaw. And could I just commend all of the speakers? I think I was trying to listen to New Zealand, but I couldn't hear it in French. There was a technical issue with the sound quality, actually. But I really appreciate it if we could have a copy of the presentations, if you could share the slides with us. Georgia, Brazil, I very much enjoyed hearing about the work that's been done in those countries. And I'd really like to know what key stages did they go through to train the National SPS Committee? How did they go about doing that? And with regard to the members of the National Committee, are they exclusively government officials? Or do you have the private sector represented there too? Are they individuals? Who is in the National Committee? Thank you.
Thank you, Gabon. So I'm not sure about your first question. Je ne suis pas sûr sur votre première question.
I'm not sure about your first question. Was that about the language disappearing, or was it about the interpretation? I'm not sure.
With the Secretariat on your question about the presentations, one moment. Yes, so in terms of the presentations, they will be available in the workshop's website, but also the participants that have been part of the workshop that come from Capital, they will receive it by email too. So I don't know if Brazil or Georgia would like to make any comments on the comments and questions presented by these two colleagues. Yes, okay, so Brazil and then Georgia. Brazil, please.
Our experience now with the people responsible for doing the notification are officials now. We try with no officials, but we had a problem to train them because the rotation of the normally this no official stay in our sector like for 1 or 2 years. So we spend a lot of time to train those no officials. So every time, all the time, a new worker come, we needed to train again, so we decided just to put officials to fill up the notifications. The training also we establish a kind of POP, like procedures that we keep recording. So in our system, like in a SharePoint. So any official in our sector that needs to do the notification have a orientation. So the document, the file that he can just follow it and not and fill up a notification. It's okay.
Please, Georgia.
So as I understand, your question was regarding the National SPS Committee.
Oui, madame.
That's right.
Marion,
We'd like to learn more about your experience. What different stages did you go through? And how did you train the National Notification Committee? How did you compose that committee? And then I really wanted to know about the members of the committee. Are they all government officials? Or do you also have individuals, private sector representatives in that committee?
So National SPS Committee we have under the NEPA, under the Ministry of Environmental Protection and Agriculture, and this national committee, SPS committee, is has members, several members from the Ministry of the Agriculture, from the Ministry of Economy, from the Ministry of Finance, and also private sectors and representative from the academy. So according to our standard operation procedures, our committee is obliged to meet at least twice in a year. But if there are issues, they can make extra meeting, also organize extra meetings. But regarding the training, I can't say nothing because they are people who is well known in their profession. So it's compiled with the people who knows her job, and about the if subject refers to the SPS measures in such cases, they invite the people who are well known in these areas and asking them some extra advices.
Thank you, Doctor. For the moment, I do not see any other request for the floor. If that's the case, I have one question for New Zealand and a couple for Georgia, and one for Georgia and Brazil that you can also answer. My question to New Zealand will be, you presented the idea of full transparency as the best policy, and I do agree with you. I am wondering whether there has been a situation where you have you introduced a notification where you were not really expecting any comment or reaction, and actually it surprised you in terms of getting comments or reactions and from your trading partners or other stakeholders. So that's my question for New Zealand and for Georgia and Brazil, especially from Georgia. Doctor, you made a comment related to translations. And that's definitely something that other WTO members have struggled with in the past, not only when presenting and drafting notifications, but also when reviewing notifications that they are receiving from trading partners. So if you could expand a little bit on that aspect of the translation process and how you have dealt with it in the past. I note that you commented on that you have received help from different sources. So how you deal with that, and perhaps Brazil may have also a point on that particular aspect. So on that, I will give the floor to New Zealand and then to Georgia and Brazil. New Zealand. If you wish to answer that question, please raise your hand.
So,
Okay. I think, thank you for your question. It's an interesting one. And yes, I guess sometimes we are surprised that we are getting a submission and comments made on our notifications. And I think the key to that is that as long as it is based on science and your decisions and your changes to your SPS measures are based on science, that it's not a big problem in terms of being able to respond to those submissions. So certainly for that, that is not a problem for us, and it's great that the system actually works and that people do get the opportunity to consult. Also, while I'm online, I just would like to add to the discussion regarding training from the previous question. One of the things that we do, as I mentioned in my presentation, is regular training of our New Zealand officials. In addition to that, we also do regular training for industry so that they become aware of the process that we must go through in terms of our obligations under the WTO, because often there is a disconnect between industry and government in terms of industry think we're just being difficult and putting barriers in the road for them. And when we train, we can help lower those barriers so they actually see that it's a two-way street and that trade works both ways. And it's important that we stick to the obligations and the requirements of the SPS agreement.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Ms. Griffin, for these two comments. I'll now give the floor to Brazil and Georgia in case you want to comment or answer any of the elements that were provided before. Brazil, please.
So in our case, first we have just a few officials that can do the notification, and the amount of job is quite a lot. So we use first the translations tool from the internet, like Google Translate or ChatGPT, and we make it some adjustments in the translation that we consider like it does make sense. When there is a more technical term, we ask the officials, like the specialists, what's the correct translation for that. But something that was really helpful for us was the tool, the template. So since our notifications repeated, the norms repeat quite a lot, like for pesticides. So we basically needed to change the name of the toxin. So that's somehow help a lot to save time. and of course, the great word is like we should do all the notification translated by myself or by, but it's I think it's we would spend a lot of time to do this, so we use the technology that's available.
Thank you, Doctor. I think you are relating a lot about this. Yes, please go ahead.
So in our cases, we tried to use the Google version, but it's really works badly. Especially from Georgia, if you want to translate from Georgia to English, a bit better when you translate vice versa from English to Georgia. That's why our department decided to ask for help to Deputy Minister, our Deputy Minister. And our Deputy Minister organized a meeting with the donors, with the international organizations who operate in our country. and ask them to make assistance with translation. So it works really well. But I know that it will not last forever. So during this period, we should prepare and find some other additional resources for translations within the ministry. Thank you.
Thank you very much for those insights. There are, oh, I see UNTAD's flag. Yes, UNTAD, you have the floor.
Thank you very much. I have a question to all the presenters. We know that sometimes the regulations on food, agricultural product, and etc. sometimes need to be notified not only to the SPS but also TBT. So an officer who has an expertise on that regulation and the SPS notification now encounters a situation of notifying it to the TBT as well. And I wonder, it's an operational level question. I wonder how you deal with this kind of situation. Do you give the regulation to the SPS inquiry point and ask the person to fill the notification? Or do you just fill both SPS and TBT by yourselves? Thank you.
Thank you, UNTAD. I see no other flag. Not online either, right? Okay, so I will let any of the current speakers to address the question if they wish to do so. Okay, I see Brazil. Brazil, you have the floor.
And in our case, in Visa, we have access to both platforms like TBT and SPS. It's quite sometimes appears like norms that we consider that we should submit it both committees. So in that case, in the SPS, first we fill it up, both cases we fill it up the entire form ourselves. Then we, in the case SPS, our national authority is the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. So we send directly the Foreign Affairs and then submit it to the SPS. In the case of the TBT committee, we involve another institution in Brazil. That's the in Metro, I don't know how to be the translation exactly. Is like our inquiry point in TBT, but we just ask them to submit, so they don't change our notification at all. We just give you permission to then to notify for us.
Thank you. Thank you, Diego. I will give the floor to the doctor, and then if Ms. Griffin wants to add to this conversation, you just need to raise your hand, and then I will give it to you. I'll give you the floor after the Dr. Beruashvili takes the floor. So please go ahead, doctor.
As I mentioned in my presentation, in our case, National Notification Authority and the National Inquiry Point is in one under one authority. But TBT is under the Ministry of Economy, under the Ministry of Economy. And personally, I have quite a good relationship with this person. And when we decide that it's not our part, it's not the SPS part, we are sending them sometimes official letters, sometimes personally by mails. We are changing information, and if he approves that it's their part, then we are sending it officially to.
Thank you, doctor. I don't know. I don't see the system, but I don't know if Ms. Griffin wants to take the floor.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So please, Ms. Griffin, you have the floor.
Hey, yeah. Much as my colleagues, my other colleague presenters, New Zealand also has SPSs in one ministry, the Ministry for Primary Industries, and the TBT is covered under our Ministry for Business and Innovation and Employment. And one of the key things that is really important in terms of ensuring that we cover off everything is we actually have a regular meeting between those departments and also including the Ministry for Foreign Affairs, so that we're all on the same page. And if there is something that is coming up, we can discuss it and decide where it needs to be notified to either TBT or SPS or both. And also it just keeps us abreast of the various different things that may be happening in the TBT committee and the SPS committee and how those converge. So that's how we manage the TBT side of the equation.
Thank you very much, Ms. Griffin. I think that with this, we conclude session 4. We are right on time. And I would like to thank all the speakers for the information they have provided and for answering their questions and all the comments they provided. So please join me in giving them a round of applause. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Now we are moving on with session 5 on reaching out to national stakeholders and other members. In this session, members will share their experiences in relation to coordination at the national level and or with other members, including through the EPING, SPS, and TBT platform. I will ask the speakers for this session to please come to the podium, and those who are joining us online to please press the raise hand button. Okay, so I will first give the floor to Dr. Mohamed Ben Hadou, official veterinarian in the Standardization and SPS Issues Department at the National Food Safety Office, ONSA, in Morocco, who will be presenting on the monitoring and management system of WTO SPS notifications in Morocco. Dr. Ben Hadou, who is present with us here on the podium, you may now take the floor.
The presentation will be in French. Okay. Merci.
Thank you, Chair. At the outset, allow me to thank the entire WTO team for allowing us to do this presentation and for helping us to assist in this workshop on transparency. Dear members and observers, I'm delighted to be able to present to you on SPS oversight and market access of Morocco. I am Dr. Ben Hadou Mohamed, a veterinarian in the Standardization SBS Issues Department at the ONSA. I also work with the DRAJ, the National Directorate for Risk and Analysis and Legal Affairs. I'm going to talk about all of these different aspects, the ONSA in general, and ONSA at an international level, the NAA in Morocco, oversight of SBS and TBT, transparency prerequisites, the experience of Morocco, TPD and SPS oversight, and the management of SPS notifications in Morocco with the WTO, and our future plans, the Pro-Agro project. And then I will conclude. Next slide. To start with a brief background, in 2009, we created the ONSA, the National Office for Food, Health and Safety, which is under the Ministry for Agriculture. It started its work in 2010. The 2508 law created ONSA, as well as the 2807 law on food, health and safety. In 2012, we created the Consultative Committee of ONSA. In 2016, we created the DRAJ. In 2017, we created a body dedicated to standardization. In 2021, we created the Scientific Risk Analysis Committee. In 2022, we launched the Green Generation Plan. And in 2024, we launched a review for a new adaptation of the organization of this office. Regarding the organization of ONSA, it is organized in various governmental bodies. There are professional bodies. There are, the previous slide, please. So there are some governance bodies. Then there are professional bodies, as well as internal focal points. And then there are risk analysis entities where they look at standardization of SPS and codex issues as well, and SPS market access issues, as well as oversight of SPS and TBT. Next slide. At an international level, the recognition of the ONSA. So Morocco has a focal point for Codex Alimentarius of the FAO. We also have one at the IPPC, another one for WOA, and a focal point for the SPS agreement of the WTO. And of course, we also have one at the International Health Regulations with the WHO. The SPS, the Moroccan SPS system also recognizes the APHIS of the USA, the OAV from the EU, DEFRA from the UK, the Eurasian Economic Union, AXIC of China, and Visa from Brazil, and the Gulf body as well. Next slide, please. Regarding the NAA of Morocco, firstly, there is SPS TBT oversight, where we have to notify SPS and TBT measures. We issue comments and follow comments of third countries. We interact with the NAAs from third countries. We also participate in the work of the SPS committee 3 times a year, from March to July and in November, and the SPS committee of the AFCFTA 3 times a year. We coordinate negotiations for SPS and market access at the different levels, and also contribute to the joint committees such as the AFCFTA, the GAFTA, ARSO, etc. We also participate in harmonization work of the standards with the AFCFTA and the African Organization for Standardization, ARSO. We also contribute to standardization work at the Codex Alimentarius. We also aim at strengthening, or rather opening up our markets to third countries for agri-food products coming from Morocco. Next slide, please. SPS oversight measures. The first point here is on managing EP notifications. This allows us to remain aware of the changes in text and help us to adapt to the different SPS measures. And there is, of course, the comment period, which is of 60 days. Then there is managing the national inquiry point, which helps us develop our national strategy for SPS measures that could have an effect on Morocco. Then we have to manage the national notification authorities for SPS, which helps us to stay on top of the notifications. We also participated in the SPS committee at MC12 and MC13. We contributed actively to the 3 committees of the SPS, and we contributed to the 5 thematic groups of the SPS, MC12 and MC13 declarations. Next slide. Transparency prerequisites in Morocco. Well, firstly, we have a centralized management for SPS and for SPS, the SPS inquiry point, which is the DNSPS. We then created a national network of internal focal points. These are linked to the professional entities that I mentioned at the start when I presented the organigram of the OMSA. The different professions are regarding animal health, plant health, food health and safety, and veterinary medicine. Then we created clear procedures for managing the SPS TBT notifications. This involved a procedure for overseeing the SPS measures of the WTO and a way of managing the SPS notifications by Morocco that are sent to the WTO. We also aim at continuously training our internal focal points. We released a procedure for managing notifications in 2021. We published various documents. We also helped spread information using pilots and holding national and regional workshops. Next slide, please. Here you can see the procedure for overseeing the SPS measures. Here you can see how we remain aware of the different notifications that are relevant for Morocco. There is a technical study of the notifications. If we require a technical position of the country, the notification is sent to the technical experts so that we can then look into it or decide whether we need to settle a dispute. We send that to the national focal point, who then establishes our position and sends that to the notification, sends that to the NNA. And all of the different comments are published on the ONSA, and they're sent to the NNA. Here you can see the website of the ONSA. Next slide. On this slide, we can see 2 graphs that show the number of notifications that have been studied and sent out by Morocco. We can see an increase in the number of notifications since the creation of this service in 2018. We've gone from 618 notifications in 2018 to 944 in 2023. These were studied by the DNSPS. At the top, we can see the EU, followed by Brazil, Federation of East Africa, Canada, USA, Japan, and so on. Next slide. That's regarding oversight. Regarding the publication of notifications on the website, as I mentioned, We've seen an increase of notifications published on our website from 2018 to 2024. Next slide. Regarding Moroccan notifications to the WTO, our regulations and technical divisions send notifications to the national focal point, the NNA, and who then notifies the WTO. Of course, we take into account the comment period of 60 days. That's of course outside, that's disregarding the emergency measures. We can also send additional information to the NEPs of third countries, and we then study the different comments that we receive and then send any possible responses to the relevant NNAs. Next slide. Here you can see Moroccan notifications since the very creation of the WTO from 1995 to 2023. Here you can see a clear increase in the number of notifications, with a maximum of 25 notifications in 2023. In 2024, we have only made 1 notification so far. Next slide. Just like with oversight, we also see the publication of notifications, SBS notifications, on our website from 2015 up until the current day. You can also click and see the type of notification. Here I discuss the Pro-Agro project, which is a project in conjunction with the ILO. A study was led with the ILO and in conjunction with the agri-food sector, which helped us to understand the need to include professionals in the SBS notification process and to strengthen and bolster the competitiveness of our Moroccan products. The goals were to create a standard to encourage professionals to also use the EPING platform and the national forum in particular, to encourage national experts and professionals to comment on standards and SBS measures. And we also wanted to digitalize the exchange process with experts and professionals. We organized a national workshop on SBS and TBT measures in collaboration with the WTO, ONSA and the ILO, with the participation of Camille Fleger and another colleague, who honored us with their presence at that workshop and with the quality of that training. We also set up a digital platform called eNorm by ONSA, which helped to facilitate discussions with ONSA, national experts and professionals. There'll be a workshop on that in the next month. And we hope to also set up a workshop, an African workshop on SBS measures in 2024. To conclude, I would like to say that we need to ensure constant oversight of the WTO notifications and SBS measures to ensure transparency. It's important to encourage participation in in the SBS committee meetings. We need to encourage public-private partnerships and how they defend the national interests. We should encourage the participation of experts into in the different meetings and strengthen the interests of our region as well. Thank you very much for your attention. Thank you.
Thank you, Doctor. Je dois dire que je reconnais la participation active.
I must say that I pay tribute to the regular participation of Morocco in the SBS committee. And that's also something that needs to be recognized. Well done.
I apologize to the interpreters. I think I'm keeping them on their toes. But that's not a bad thing, I think. Now, let us proceed with the second speaker, Ms. Shanshan Tang. I think I mispronounced it. Apologies for that. Government Council, Section Chief of the SPS Commenting Division and National Inquiry Point at the General Administration of Customs of People's Republic of China, GACC, who will be presenting on promoting better transparency throughout SPS pre-alerts, China's practice, a stakeholder-focused approach. Ms. Tang, who is here with us on the podium, you may now take the floor.
Thank you, Chair. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Xianxian Tang, and I'm from General Administration of Customs of China, that's a GACC. And I'm a government counsel in charge of SPS notification tracking, assessing, interaction with stakeholders and community as appropriate. So today, I'm very honored to be here to take this opportunity to share with you the strategies and practices by Chinese government in terms of notification tracking and pre-alert services to stakeholders around China. Next slide, please. So the Chinese government highly values the significance of the SPS agreement in promoting the international trade and economic development, and appreciates the effort of SPS committee in this regard, and has been committed to the compliance of transparency obligations for years. So there are three parts of my sharing. First, the current situation in China in relation to the impact of TBT and SPS measures by other members to Chinese industries. And second, our effort and perspectives regarding the comprehensive use of various online tracking tools, including ePIN. And thirdly, I will finalize with some recommendations. Next slide, please. So first, the current situation. So what has been happening in China? China Customs maintains an annual investigation to analyze the impact of technical trade measures by other members to domestic industries. Recently, a survey which involves 5,700 enterprises nationwide showed that TBT and SPS measures rank among top 4 most influencing factors to their trade, just after tariff, exchange rate, and licensing. We found that in 2020, I'm sorry, put the back one, please. Yeah, we found that in 2022, 18% of Chinese industries have encountered substantial losses resulting from the measures, leading to total direct losses of US dollar 41.8 billion, a year-on-year increase of 2.8%, and additional cost burden of 18.6 billion US dollars, with an extraordinary booming and that of 2021. Next slide, please. In addition, loss of orders is the most common form of losses suffered by Chinese companies. What's more, some respondents have reported exceptional circumstances such as determined distraction, return, reprocessing, repurposing, or downgrading of their cargo, usually accounts for overwhelming transaction costs. Meanwhile, we found that the insufficiency of information remains the strongest negative drawback for industries coping with fast-changing measures. Therefore, providing them with timely and convenient access to foreign notifications, allowing to prepare and comment, is essential to information transparency. Next slide, please. So what shall we do for help? The rapid development of network technology in China has expanded our space to use various online tools, which enable us to better react to the needs of our stakeholders. In the second part of my sharing, I'd like to discuss 3 major online platforms we are currently using, namely ePing, the most important one, and National TBT and SPS Inquiry website, and the TBT and SPS Express on a single window, in hope that I can draw you a brief map on how we use them comprehensively. Generally, as you may notice the figures, and recent research shows that 49% of users in China use ePing for notification tracking, compared with 63% who use Chinese inquiry website and 50% taking TBT and SPS Express as their source of information. Next slide, please. So first, the ePing platform. In fact, in July 2022, just after the new version of ePing was launched, JCC released a promotion for new ePing throughout their official account at WeChat, the largest social media platform in China. Meanwhile, to better prepare for this workshop, we recently conducted a small-scale questionnaire survey specifically targeting the users of ePing, which received positive feedback. The survey showed that the revised ePing system is highly recognized by domestic stakeholders for its real-time, authoritative, integrated, and intuitive nature. The survey involves 394 enterprises, government officials, and university professionals. And we find the figure really quite interesting. The findings are quite interesting. As you may see in the pie chart on the left, 11% of the total participants frequently use ePing for more than 2 years, and 38 of them have less than 2 years experiences, accounting for 45% in total who are familiar with ePing functions just before this survey. So actually, we regard the figure really positive because after all, English is not our first language. At the same time, we may find in the bar chart on the right, showing that ePing is the most favorable platform among academic professionals, while government officials choose the National Inquiry website and their first choice. And for enterprises, they prefer TBT and SPS Express on single window best. I'll discuss this later. Next slide, please. So the findings also indicate that users choose ePing mainly because it has the following characteristics: authoritative and real-time first-hand official notification information, unified platform of TBT and SPS notifications and STCs, user-friendly interface, customized searching function, free and tailored pre-alerts pushing services, systematic STC tracking function, and visual layout of the data, and so on. Next slide, please. On the other hand, respondents also reported some issues and difficulties during their use. As we predicted already, language gap remains the biggest blocking factor restraining their use, while some have reported technical issues during searching or registration. Some users also find it difficult or costly to obtain the original legal text from certain members who neither use Chinese non-English. So how to help users to overcome language gaps, satisfy their needs, and enhance their experience of online information tracking so as to fully explore the advantages of ePing. So here is our solution. Our main strategy is to rely on original information of EPIN, reprocess the data with Chinese, and realize all functions of EPIN throughout integrated application of both national inquiry website and the SPS and TBT Express on our single window platform. Next slide, please. So next, the Chinese TBT and SPS inquiry website. We launched an official website called National WTO and TBT and SPS notification and inquiry website in early years, which has fulfilled the basic needs of notification tracking for stakeholders. The main function includes new updates, customized notification tracking, searching, online consultation, national forum, and online submission of comments. Users can choose either Chinese or English to browse the website. Next slide, please. At the same time, we highly value the alert pushing services of EPIN and has been learning from it. In order to realize the so-called peer-to-peer pushing services to stakeholders, we draw on the unique features of international trade single window platform, where all trading partners, companies submit and manage their customs declarations over the nation to further explore these services. We launched a new program called TBT and SPS Express in 2022. After registration, the system automatically matches relevant notifications data based on the HS code and final destination from their customs declaration history and provide pushing services in a peer-to-peer manner. Users can browse the information on the platform directly, or they can choose to receive pushing alerts through emails or smartphones. The Express has pushed 2.9 billion notifications and pre-alerts to 1.8 million international trade enterprises by far. Next slide, please. So our next steps. Currently, China Customs is focusing on the goals of smart customs, smart borders, and smart connectivity, and is rapidly promoting the construction of smart customs. We have included information transparency and improving EPIN effectiveness as one of our key tasks. Next, with a better integration with EPIN, we plan to fully utilize modern technologies such as AI and big data processing to continuously improve the experience of all stakeholders in terms of information transparency. Next slide, please. So finally, here comes two of our recommendations. First, just as I mentioned, language issues remain a key factor constraining the transparency of English information acquisition by all relevant parties. We have noticed that the SPS committee encourages members to share unofficial translation in the International Forum of EPIN. We believe this idea would be quite helpful to resource sharing and cost saving among members. We look forward to see further progress in this area. And second, we sincerely welcome the attention of WTO Secretariat, SPS Committee, and ITC to the construction of smart customs by JCC. We appreciate the fruitful support by WTO, and we would like to further strengthen our mutual cooperation to jointly promote the use of EPIN in China throughout project cooperation, technical training, and other suitable means. That's all. Thank you all for listening. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Tang, for this very interesting presentation. And I note that there's a lot of fresh data coming from this presentation. So quite interesting, especially for our colleagues from the Secretariat and for all EPIN users. With that, I will now give the floor to Mr. Andres Quiroz, Director of Negotiations on SPS measures and TBT at the Ministry of Production, Foreign Trade, Investment and Fisheries in Ecuador, who will be presenting on compliance with WTO transparency provisions, analysis of EPIN notifications, and coordination of the WTO TBT and SPS committee. Mr. Quiroz, who is present with us here on the podium, you may now take the floor. I'll give you just one moment for you to be introduced to all the
Okay,
technology. Yes?
thank
Okay.
you very
Go ahead.
much, Chair. Muchísimas gracias.
Thank you all. And of course, I'd like to thank WTO for this opportunity to talk about Ecuador. I'm going to talk about transparency provisions that we comply with at WTO and how we conduct an analysis of EPIN notifications in Ecuador. My presentation will focus on complying with WTO transparency provisions, how we analyze the notifications made by member countries over the EPIN platform, the criteria we use for establishing a priority of notifications, coordination between public and private institutions regarding notifications from member states, and the procedure for sending comments and establishing our country position, and then the main difficulties and recommendations for improving the use of the EPIN platform. I think it's important to say that in our trade agenda, in the most recent trade agreements that we've negotiated with Costa Rica and China recently, it's important to say that the WTO agreements form a key part of these trade agreements that we negotiate. And in particular, TPT, anything to do with standards, conformity assessment procedures. There, we used directly WTO provisions in our free trade agreements, just to be sure that that these are they are focused on scientific-based, objective criteria, because we use international standards. And we want to ensure that the measures that we use are not unnecessary barriers to trade or disguise trade restrictions. And we also give a 60-day period for comments and a minimum of 6 months for entry into force. On SPS, we always establish provisions to establish our level of protection. And measures are always linked to a legitimate objective, such as the health of people or animals, or indeed plant protection. And we try to ensure that standards of international institutions are applied on a scientific basis. The three sisters that we all know, Codex, and the IPPC. And there is a 60-day comment period as well. So how do we carry out an analysis of notifications over the EPIN system? Well, we received a number of requests for support from the sector, because many sectors find that it's difficult to get access to different markets because of additional costs, or because standards had been amended. And we saw that the EPIN platform was really an excellent tool to help the private sector in this regard, to help them get better information and get better prepared for new standards, because these standards are often more and more demanding. And we're not just talking about developed countries, but we're talking about developing countries too, that notify more and more regulations. EPING is vital to monitor the different standards that countries are adopting, and it helps us to analyze those standards together with the private sector, raise their awareness, and get the private sector involved in the process of respecting these standards. So, first of all, you need to understand it, and you need to get the private sector involved in developing these standards as well. I don't know how many notifications countries come up with every week. I don't know if you know that. About 200 come through every week. So this is quite a major administrative burden. And first of all, you need to actually read those 200 notifications coming through every week. And we've decided to establish some criteria for prioritizing our analysis, focusing on what really is of interest to us. And we have a transparent process where we coordinate between public and private organizations so that there is strong participation in the process. So what are the criteria that we use? Well, as the Ministry of Industry, we analyze all notifications that come through every week. And the key criteria is the scope of the notification. We look at what products are covered by the notification. And there may not be exports of ours, so we may not need to inform our own industrial sector. For instance, we don't have a great diversity of products, so we've identified the main export products that we have. The first criteria is that the notification coming through must be of interest to us in terms of one of our major export products. And then which trade partner is notifying? Is it for one country or is it to all countries? Some notifications are only relevant for one country. And then we look at whether or not we have a trade agreement with them. We may not be exporting this product, and they may not be a trade partner. And so that's something we also need to take into account. And are there exports to that country? If so, they might be affected. And so we have to tell the private sector about the various aspects of this standard. And then we look at the countries affected and the amount that might be involved. And then we look at the comment period. Sometimes countries notify a draft, or it can be a definitive measure. And there may not be a comment period. Sometimes we just inform the private sector about it. Or we establish a period of time in which to bring themselves into conformity. So what are the next steps? We look at whether notification meets those criteria. Then we identify the competent authority, which bodies need to be involved. Is it environmental? Is it waste disposal? Is it labeling? We identify the relevant institutions and we ask them to take a look at the draft notification or standard and share it with the sector. Something we did just 2 weeks ago is that as a ministry, we directly notified chambers of commerce because they can give us valuable support to circulate information and get more people involved. And then we receive comments from public institutions and private bodies. And once we've received those comments from the public and private sectors, we work together. We meet together and we look at how valid our concerns are, because there may be complaints about new procedures being set up. And okay, there's the lab analysis that needs to be done. So it's just more complicated, but it may not be an actual valid complaint. Or maybe they need to use different kind of analysis. This is a joint effort. We need to look at this together to work out how valid our concerns are, and then we can draw up comments. Those comments are then handed over to the focal point, and we have 2 of those, one on TBT and one on SPS. And we identify the focal point and we send them through so that they can transmit comments to other contact points or focal points. And then we monitor, we follow up and see if our questions were answered, if our concerns were responded to, and if they haven't been taken into account or answered, then we assess whether or not to raise a specific trade concern in the TBT or SPS committee. What we also suggest is that if it's a country with which we have a trade agreement, then this is a much more streamlined procedure, because if we have a trade agreement, then we can go through that process, whereas the SPS and TBT committees only meet every 3 months. So that may be more timely, a time-consuming procedure. Sometimes the fastest thing is to have a bilateral meeting, particularly if you have a trade agreement with that country. And if you don't have a trade agreement, we can look at this with the institutions, whether or not to raise a specific concern or to have informal meetings, which can also be a useful practice to try to get responses to our concerns. And if we do decide to raise a specific trade concern, then we go into more detailed process where we look at the technical scientific proof, we look at an analysis of international standards, where the regulation may differ, and we put all of that together and we try to present that in an understandable form. This is an interinstitutional task led by the ministry, but with the involvement of all competent authorities, where we assess the different issues and try and come up with a country position. Then we send this to the Ecuadorian mission here in Geneva, where we have officials working for us, and those concerns are expressed within the SPS or TBT committees. And then we ask for updates on the progress to see if our comments were taken into account and how the relevant country reacted. Now, this information I wanted to share with you. This is from WTO Secretariat about how many companies are registered in the e-ping system. At global level, there are 32,000 users. 46% of them are public bodies, and then 40% come from the private sector. But for Ecuador, we are a small country. We just have 401 users registered. But it's interesting to note that 62% of those are private companies. So that gives us some certainty that this exercise that we've been carrying out of trying to get the private sector involved has been relatively successful. We're getting them involved. And the private sector is raising our awareness about issues rather than being the other way around. And they're warning us of measures that may affect them. And just to conclude, I just want to refer to some of the challenges that we've seen in this process. One of them is the fact that we have little institutional capacity in terms of dealing with notifications. We don't have a unit, a department for e-ping notifications. There's a lot of turnover among staff, and institutions don't have trained or specialized staff for dealing with e-ping notifications. So we have to keep on updating them and trying to make sure people understand how comments should be submitted to respond to different notifications. So also the private sector has a lack of understanding as well. Very often they don't know how to use the system, even though they register. what I've been saying, and what we've heard a lot is that translation is a key challenge. They want to help translating notifications. Even it's very difficult because even if you get a general idea of what the measure involves, translation, you may have AI tools, but they are quite limited. And we're talking about regulations that maybe are 40 to 60 pages long. And in just a day, you can't really get an affordable translation. And these are extra costs for companies. And so we need to look into how to facilitate that process and try and ensure that we get translations, at least informal translations, as well uploaded, because I think that would be extremely useful. And we try and get in touch with agencies to help us with the translation as well.
Another issue is that we have a lack of financial resources. We are looking at ways of creating bulletins to ensure that our users are constantly up to date with the notifications. We're trying to set up a database so that those who are of interest can see the notifications that are relevant to them. Of course, this all requires financial backing, a platform, for example, or a unit that deals with that. And that's another of the issues that we face in being able to develop this service further. As I mentioned, we deal with roughly 200 notifications that we try and look at using the filters, but we try and deal with roughly 20 to 30 notifications regarding institutions, but we don't get a lot of feedback from the companies themselves. Here we have a doubt as to the reasons for this. Is it because they don't, is it because the notification isn't compliant, or is it because of some other reason that they don't understand it in much detail, or they perhaps don't know how to comment on the regulation? And that's why the TBT is working on creating a guide for countries or institutions so that they can understand how to analyze and observe a notification, or rather comment on a notification, because a lot of the time they don't know how to actually comment on a notification because maybe a notification isn't fully in line with the international organizations. So having a guide or a manual on how to issue comments would be key to the work that we are trying to achieve. We think it would be of utmost importance for WTO notifications. Lastly, as EPING users, and because we would like to make a few suggestions, beforehand, we noticed that the system allowed us to filter the types of notifications that apply to all countries and those that apply just to one country. This would be something very useful, that would be of great use to us, because that way we would be able to filter measures that only apply to one particular country or that apply to all our trading partners, for example. As we also mentioned, translation is perhaps the most important barrier at the moment because it creates a lot of extra costs. Not having an official translation really hinders our ability to provide comments, or to at least provide comments within the 60-day period. We've also noticed that notifications don't have the obligation to set up a tariff heading, and that way the filters that we use don't give the best results. For example, if we ask a question in English and in Spanish, if we set up this filter in English and in Spanish, in English the information is far more precise than the information that we get in Spanish. That's why the work of the Secretariat is also key to help countries to include tariff headings so that we have better quality information in the system. This would help us in queries and in transparency. Full stop. It is essential to have the tariff heading for our trading partners and for us. Because it would be very helpful to be able to create searches using tariff headings. That's what I wanted to share with you as Ecuador and our experience of using ePing. Thank you very much for your kind attention.
Muchas gracias, Andrés.
Thank you very much, Andrés.
Thank you very much. I think we're still on time. We still have two presentations, and I note that it's 5 p.m. and people are getting a little bit tired. So what I will propose at this stage is that we have a round of questions so that we can all get more energy. Because actually these presentations have been very, very interesting, and I think it deserves a little bit of our time before we continue with the next two. So I open the floor in case any of you have any questions or comments on these first three presentations before we move on. The floor is open. I see three. So Chinese Taipei, Pakistan. Okay. Oh, that's great. Let's make them short so that we also provide the same amount of time to the next two presenters. So first Chinese and Pakistan, Chinese Taipei and Pakistan. Go, Chinese Taipei, please go ahead.
Thank you, Chair, for giving me the floor, and thank you for the presenters' excellent presentations. I learned a lot from your presentations, and I have three questions. Go to the delegate from China. Thank you. I saw that you use you based on ePing system to develop two systems. One is single window TPT and SPS Express, and the other one is national TPT and SPS inquiry websites. And both of these two systems are aiming to have better search and classification or notification or setting alert of those notifications. But I cannot see the main difference between these two systems. So would you please explain a little bit more about the differences of these two systems? And you also mentioned that the main barriers of using ePing is the language. But have you used any other such online tools, such as Google Translation, for example? I think they can do a lot of good translation when using foreign languages. And the third question is, you mentioned that in your national TPT and SPS inquiry websites, you have Chinese and English version. So can members other than China use that website? And you also mentioned there's a function called online consultation. So can members other than China or users other than China use that online consultations to consult with your authorities directly? Thank you.
Thank you, Chinese Taipei. I don't know if Pakistan, you want to take the floor again. I see your flag was yes. Okay, please go ahead.
Thank you, Chair, for giving me the opportunity, and thank you for the presenters for enlightening presentations. My question is, especially from China and also other colleagues as well, that do you have some specific sections within your inquiry point for this purpose, and specific people for this purpose who do only this work? And what you have done to train and develop their expertise in this subject? Thank you.
Thank you, Pakistan. Sorry, I don't see your flag. Is that Sri Lanka? Santa Lucia. Okay, yes. Santa Lucia, please go ahead, followed by Costa Rica and Chile. Santa Lucia.
Okay, good afternoon. Thanks again. Very, very excellent presentations thus far. I just want to continue with, I think Chinese Taipei started a question which I had in mind, and I will just qualify towards what I would want to include in his question, because the three platforms that China presented, very quite interesting, and also interesting to see that they were highly subscribed to. But I just also wanted to find out whether it was the very same information shared or whether those platforms would redirect you to the ePing platform, or whether it's everything, all three platforms share the same. But I also have initially a question with regarding the number of subscribers, persons utilizing the platforms. There should be some success stories involved, or successful mechanisms to encourage such high usage of the platform. So if she can probably just share succinctly what successful mechanisms are in place just to get private sector and so many other different parts of the public involved. And one question too, I think it was Morocco. He spoke on having a national risk assessment committee. Is that committee established to guide the decisions of the SPS TBT committees, or it's just I don't know. I don't know if he shared it, but I just wanted to get clear direction as to why what is the use of the National Risk Assessment or Risk Analysis Committee, and its involvement in the work of the WSPS activity committees. And I think that was it. Yes, thank you very much.
Okay, so this is I'm at this stage, I'm not sure. I have too many questions, which is always good. I'll see if I need to split them so that you can answer some of them at the end so that we still have time for the two presenters. Let's capture as many as possible. I see Nigeria. Oh, sorry. So Costa Rica, Chile, and Nigeria. Costa Rica.
Thank you, Chair. My question is for Ecuador, for Andres. I have several questions, in fact, but they're all quite brief. How many people work in the notification role in the division of notifications that you mentioned? When you spoke about 200 notifications, are they SPS and TBT together? Okay. Third, that same entity, did they deal with both SPS and TBT notifications? They're the same people dealing with these two types of notifications. Those are my 4 questions. Thank you.
Chile, please go ahead. I know those are quick questions, but I need to give everybody the chance. Chile, please.
Thank you, Chair. Firstly, allow me to congratulate everyone for their brilliant presentations. My question is also for my Ecuadorian colleague. It's basically on the criteria that you defined for on whether you raise a notification with the relevant party. Do you define that internally, or is there an exchange or discussion with the relevant stakeholders to define the best way of doing so to avoid information gaps at certain stages in the process? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chile. Nigeria, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair, for the opportunity. Thank you to the presenters. My question is to the China presenter. Thank you so much for your elaborate presentation. My question is, you mentioned the GSCC. I want to find out, does the GSCC play the role of both the National Inquiry Point and the National Notification Authority? Secondly, I want also for you to throw more light on the coordination. You know, so much China is a big country, and I wonder how that coordination was done. Can you just throw more light on how you were able to coordinate these activities? Thank you.
Thank you, Nigeria. Many questions to China. I'll give the floor now to Senegal and Togo. Senegal, please.
Thank you, Chair, for giving me the floor. I would like to commend the presenters for their very clear presentations and thank them for the information that they have provided us. In particular, their experiences on using EPING. I have a question from Mohammed from Morocco. In one of your slides, you showed the notification process. I didn't see the involvement of operators from the private sector. Do you include them in that notification process? For the Chinese delegate and for the Ecuadorian delegate, most of the questions that I had were raised by those who went before me, but I did have a question for both of you. How did you manage behavioral changes regarding the use of EPING, i.e. moving from the original A system to the new B system? Thank you very much.
Interesting question, that one. Togo, please go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. I would also like to echo my predecessors and thank the speakers for their clear presentations. They have all been very beneficial. I had a question from Morocco regarding the coordination between the different structures. How did you coordinate the different structures? Did you set up a strategy? Because in my country, we have that issue in that notifications are often very difficult to issue. So could you talk to us about that? Regarding statistics, we've seen that between 1995 and 2018, there was a stabilization of notifications, but between 2019 and 2023, we saw that there was a change. What strategies were set up to have that positive increase in notifications? You also spoke to us of a digital platform, but you didn't explain that in a lot of detail. Could you do so? Could you speak about how you set it up and how you went about implementing it? For China now, I think a speaker who went before me raised this question regarding the three platforms. Is there a difference between the three platforms? It seems to us that these platforms are used for different types of notifications, but I can't really spot the difference between them. If you could enlighten us, please, that'd be great. Thank you. Thank you, Togo.
So what I will do at this stage is I think we can dedicate 5 minutes for the speakers to address these questions. I will provide 2 minutes each. And I will first give the floor to Ecuador, followed by Morocco, and last China, so she will have more time to put together all her thoughts on the different questions. I hope that's not unfair to the other speakers. So please, Ecuador, go ahead.
Thank you very much, Chair. Responding to the question of Costa Rica. Yes, there are 2 people dealing with the notifications, in addition to the manager. Those 200 notifications include both SPS and TBT notifications. That's right. There are different people who analyze the notifications to those who actually notify. Regarding the question from Chile, we decide internally within the ministry, but what we try and do, if there are comments, is we try and notify the various chambers of the Ministry of Trade and try and get the data that they have, which may then raise new criteria or new parameters, which would help us to better analyze which sector may be growing or may be affected by the notifications. And we also look at the value of exports. We believe that we have a a part of the ministry that looks at tariff headings, and we work with them, and we really insist on having a tariff heading, as I mentioned at the end of my presentation, because it would really help us to be able to better identify a product. That's basically going through all of your questions. Thank you.
Morocco, you have the floor.
I will answer St. Lucia that the DRAG, the Directorate for Risk Analysis and Legal Affairs, there is a unit within that DRAG that is specifically looking at risk analysis, but they also work with labs and academia that analyze risks specifically for SPS measures. Regarding Senegal's question, regarding coordination and the digital platform, I didn't give much detail on that because this platform hasn't been launched yet. But professionals can access the platform freely to look at notification information that is relevant to them in a general way. As I presented to you, there is either direct contact between the focal point and the professionals, or there is contact between them or via the technical directorate, and everyone's exchanges with each other. Regarding the question from Togo, which was on the platform, the digital platform that will be launched soon, it was the result of a cooperation between ONSA and the WTO and the ILO, I believe, to ensure good coordination between the public and private sectors. Thank you. Thank you, Mark.
Give the floor to Ms. Tang to answer the questions. Ms. Tang, you have the floor.
Thank you. Thank you for all who are asking the questions. I've got lots of questions, and I think the most the most popular question is that you want me to clarify the differences between the three platforms, right? So I'll answer it in all generally. I just mentioned in my PowerPoint, e-ping for us is good. It's very, efficient, but the only gap of that is that it's a language. So we got lots, a big number of small and medium companies, trading companies who are, not very expertise in English, and rather than choose to use Chinese language to get everything right. This is natural, I think. And the this type sorry, I also get the another question about the Google translation. So I answer it together. Yeah, Google translation, and also we have another, translation means in China, lots of them. But I think that it's natural, really natural for people to search with their mother tongue. So e-ping is good. But according to our survey, we can find the figures. Most of the respondents, they reported the issue because of different language. So, our focus is on the stakeholder focused approach. So our main strategy is to, how can we fit better to their needs. So that's why we created two other Chinese notification searching tools. So our main strategy is that we rely on which is very good and accurate and official information, and then we process, we translate we translate all the information into Chinese. And, we comprehensively use the two platform to realize we are trying to realize all the functions of eating. That's our logic. So the difference between the inquiry website and the Express is the the main focus. For the website, people just can browse the website and tailor their searching and get notifications as they like. And also the there's an international forum, as I mentioned, on the website. Of course, all the users, they can submit their questions and get answer. But most of the users are Chinese, right? Because they like to use their mother tongue. But of course, every users, as long as you can browse the website, they can submit a question or problem. In hope they can get an answer. So I think this another question from Taipei, Chinese Taipei, right? And main focus of the other platform called PBT and SPS Express, the main characteristics is a unique feature is that it's based on the international trade single window. I think it's China's this platform of China is very famous. It's quite trade facility terms. So all the trading companies need to use the platform to submit and manage their customs declarations. So they use them. That's why we just put the program, put the new platform just on that website. So every companies know, oh, this is another function of notification tracking. And I think it's focused on the peer-to-peer services, which is similar to the e-ping pre-alert pushing services, but also it's in Chinese. Yeah, so especially it's focused targeting to Chinese users, so they can better get better experience on to get pre-warning services to their notifications. And it's a tailored service. They matches the notification automatically based on the HS code and the destination of their cargo. So it's it's much easier for them, especially for Chinese traders to get more information and improve their experience of searching, something like that. So with some okay. So I quickly skip the closely function. That's I think I finished. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think it gathered a lot of interest, and I think the key word here is synergies. I think members are actually seeking for synergies and avoid duplication. So obviously, your platform can serve many purposes, and it has obviously gathered a lot of interest. What I will propose is that those that have a more interest into that can reach out to you. You will still be here a little bit more. So with that, we continue with the next speaker, Dr. Betul Vazgeser, regulatory expert at the Ministry of Agriculture and Forestry in Turkey, which will be presenting on transparency and food safety approaches in Turkey. Dr. Vazgeser here on the podium, you may now take the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And on behalf of Turkey, I would like to thank the WTO Secretariat for giving me an opportunity to attend the distinguished workshop as a speaker. And this is outline my presentation, and it will be clear at the end of my presentation, I hope. And it is the very last, I mean, the time of the meeting, and I will try to, I mean, I promise to make a page turner presentation. And thank you very much for your let me begin by saying a few words about who we are. And my name is Betül Vazgeçer, and I have been working at the Ministry of Agriculture and Forestry. Our ministry is the competent authority in Turkey. Protection of human health and consumers' interests are main policy of the ministry. And this is our organization schema. And this is as complex as yours. And Turkey has been a member of WTO since 1995 and a member of General Agreement on Tariffs and Trade since 1951. Under the ministry, there are two Directorates General, while Directorate General for Food and Control is the SPS National Notification Authority and Inquiry Point. The Directorate General for EU and Foreign Affairs manage the e-ping online platform, and it is like a contact point of the e-ping platform. And there's a close cooperation between two directorates. Therefore, all notifications submitted by other countries are gathered and sent to National Notification Authority by DG Foreign Affairs or vice versa. When prepare notification, we just draft submit, draft and submit by the DG Foreign Affairs. And the competent authority is clearly designated and has the necessary legal basis to carry out their tasks effectively. And one law and one central authority are the power of implementation of food safety in Turkey. And food safety policy includes, food safety policy includes plant and animal health, food and feed safety based on internationally accepted risk assessment and scientific research. And under the Turkish ministry, our DG Food and Control has the core responsibilities, especially for being contact point of Codex, OA, and IPPC, and food establishment and Codex departments. I have been working these departments for 20 years. Is the one of 11 departments under the DG, and two or more. Two or three experts from all departments are the member of Turkish SPP group email. Therefore, notifications forwarded by WTO received and replied by Turkish experts via DG, Foreign Affairs. And this is the DG is also central competent authority for 81 provincial directorates. The communication within and between the competent authorities and the other organizations involved is adequate and effective. In addition to provincial directorates, there are other affiliated directorates which are in charge of control, research, analysis, inspection, monitoring duties for veterinary, phytosanitary, food and feed safety issues. And do you know, Turkey is a very big country with more than 85 million of population and 45 million of tourists per year. And there are nearly 8,000 inspectors, and nearly 1.5 million domestic food inspection has been done in a year. And besides Three Sisters, our DG has a close and effective cooperation with other international organizations. And these are the key elements of transparency provisions of the SPS agreement. The more transparency is implemented, the more international trade is being fair and powerful. And therefore, it is not an obligation, but it is a big advantage. And these are the figures of trade in agriculture in Turkey. And Turkey is the world's seventh largest agriculture producer, and it's a major producer of wheat, sugar beets, milk, tomato, and other fruits and vegetables. And it leads the world in the production of hazelnut, raisins, dried figs, and apricot. And all strategic plan of Turkish ministry includes also SPS-related priorities, and which are about food safety, animal and plant health. And Turkish Food Codex is the main actor of food safety policy and is prepared by taking into account the needs of Turkey based on EU acquis. I mean, the Codex Alimentarius standards and internationally accepted risk and science-based approach. And since Codex standards is defined by WTO as the benchmark in resolving international trade disputes, I would like to mention about Turkish Food Codex. And then drafting Turkish Food Codex legislation, we use same mechanism like Codex Alimentarius and committees. And in Turkey, there's 32 committees, which are called as horizontal and or vertical. And these committees working under National Food Codex Commission. And these are the committee members, and national and international stakeholder comments are taken into consideration, not only drafting period, but also after taking third parties comments. And this committee structure is used for more than 20 years in Turkey. And if you look at the committee members, it includes all stakeholders in the Turkey. And therefore, timetable before publication of a Turkish Food Codex is compatible with the transparency principle, and all drafted codex legislation is available at homepage of DG. And notified to W2 SPS is 60 days, and all comments are taken into consideration before published in official gazette. And this is the numbers of SPS notification of Turkey, and then I use the EPIN web page to. There's a very helpful, I mean, the web page. I really want to mention about this, and all notification is announced the official web page of our ministry, and it is not it is latest but not least the notification. The latest notification is here, and about pesticide emeralds, and you can find these notifications from the main web page. And I would like to thank you very much for your interest. And I will also mention about the permanent mission of Turkey is located in the WTO, and our representative would like to be very welcome for cooperation with all countries. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Doctor, for this presentation. Let me now give the floor to the last presenter, Ms. Priscila Reg Pinto Moser, Federal Inspector at the Ministry of Agriculture and Livestock, MAPA, in Brazil, who will be presenting on the Brazilian Ministry of Agriculture's perspective on identifying, preparing, and sharing WTO SPS notifications. Ms. Moser joining us online, you may now take the floor.
Thank you, Chair. Share opportunity.
Thank you very much, Ms. Moser. Now I would like to open the floor to any questions related to these two presentations. I see the flag of Pakistan. Pakistan, please go ahead.
Thank you, Chair, for giving me the opportunity, and thanks to presenters for enlightening presentation. My question is to Priscilla from Brazil. I want to ask that, as you have very well explained that the comments which you receive from your on the notifications of the notifying countries and then compile them and then share. When you draft the regulation, and what considerations you have for changing the regulation with respect to some specific commodity or pest, or we may say the food item, from where or what are the initiatives, I think, the derivatives that you consider while drafting the notification or changing some regulation, as you pointed out that you are drafting the notifications on daily basis, communicating. So what are the derivatives? Thank you.
Thank you, Pakistan. I don't see any other requests for the floor. In that case, oh, I see Gabon. Gabon, you have the floor.
Merci.
Thank you, Chairman. I'm not sure I fully understood the coordination within the Turkish system. I think I understood that you have a single directorate under the Ministry of Foreign Affairs that notifies the WTO. And my question really is, how does the coordination take shape? Is there a national SPS committee with working meetings? Or does each body separately look at notifications and then send in their contributions by mail to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs? How does the national committee actually work in Turkey in that respect? Thank you, Gabon.
So I will take these two questions, one for Brazil and the other one for Turkey, and add a last one from me for both of you. And you have the benefit of having heard from everybody at this stage. So that's that's the fortune and the misfortune, perhaps. So my question to you will be, after hearing of all of the experiences, all of the questions, all of the comments from fellow delegates, in your view, how can we enhance and intensify the use of tools like EPIN? So if we have more time, I will maybe expand that question to the rest of the speakers. But for the moment, for the colleagues from Brazil and Turkey, if you could also address this particular question, I will really appreciate it. So with that, I will give the floor first to Turkey and then to Brazil. Turkey, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, question for Gabon. I would like to explain the system. If you think about the National Notification Authority and the inquiry points, it is the DG Food and Control, because the animal and plant health, food and feed safety expert is located, I mean, there. And if you think about the duties of the DG EU and Foreign Affairs, yes, they searched the all notifications, I mean, from the system, EPING system. And then they, I mean, to prepare a official letter, email, or the two of them is used, official system, and then the emails. And then these Excel sheet is sent regularly to NNA in Turkey, and there is a network, and I mean there's a SPS I mean the email is a group email, and all two or the 2 or 3 experts, I mean is the member of this email group, And then all experts see the notifications. I mean, the sent by the search and sent by the other DG. And then we prepared the notification replied or other things, whatever they need. And then we discussed together all, I mean, the two DG prepared or discussed this on the draft and submitted by DG Foreign Affairs. The submission procedure is, I mean, followed by DG Foreign Affairs because it should be coordinated. There's a good coordination between two DG, and but if you think about the technical issue, the expert and then the national notification authority is, I mean, they prepared some technical, I mean, the points. But if you think about the EPing, the procedure, and then of course it is managed and coordinated by the DG Foreign Affairs, and it works very, I mean, perfectly to prepare the notifications, and it's like this. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now I'll give the floor to Ms. Moser if she wants to address any of the questions. Ms. Moser, please.
Thank you. I'll reply in Spanish, if I may. Pakistan's question, first of all. Well, there are 2 points at which we publish the notification. Firstly, when we issue the notification following a public consultation in Brazil, or just on the website, when we have to notify in the WTO, there's a comment period. And then once we've received all of the comments from all countries and from the private sector and from society in Brazil, we then consider that and then we publish the standard or the draft law, having borne in mind all of the comments. Then we come out with a new notification, a final one, where the standard enters into force in Brazil. And then there's another point, which is when we have a standard where the consultation's already taken place, and then we publish just when it's entering into force. And that's a final notification in this sort of addendum. And with regard to the chair's question, I think this was a very interesting point, and I've noted down so many different things that we could do to disseminate information more successfully within Brazil, and for information to get to other members as well through the changes that are being made in Brazil. I think the most difficult thing is translation. Many countries like ours use free tools like Google Translate and other tools that are available. And it's a good start. But we also translate these documents for our users so that they can access information in Portuguese. But it's such a challenge, and I think all of us need to work on that quite a lot. So that's all for now. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Muchas gracias.
Thank you, Priscilla.
I know that there are 2 flags. Oh, not anymore. Okay, so yes, and I see also Ilker's flag, but I notice it's 6 p.m. So I kind of have another round of questions at this stage because, of course, we need to finish. So is that okay for you? Okay, thank you. So with that, we get to the end of session 5. I would like to thank all the speakers for the presentation. So once again, please join me in giving them a round of applause. Now let us now move to the closing session of this workshop. We have heard information and experiences throughout the workshop on transparency from the SPS and TBT sections of the Secretariat, as well as members and the three sisters. Of course, proposals related to transparency could also be put forward in the context of the sixth review of the SPS agreement, and some members have put forward proposals as mentioned yesterday. I will invite members to continue to further reflect and engage on the topic of transparency. This is just the beginning of this conversation. With that, we have reached the end of the thematic workshop, which I trust has enhanced your knowledge and understanding of transparency in the SPS agreement, as well as the e-Ping SPS and TBT platform. Allow me to express my gratitude to all the speakers for their engaging and informative presentations yesterday and today on this topic. I also wish to extend my sincere appreciation to all participants for their contributions to the discussion, as well as to the Secretariat and the interpreters for their dedicated work. Without them, none of this would have been possible. The presentations delivered during the workshop will be uploaded to the SPS events, workshops, and training webpage. Additionally, I will compile a concise factual report to be distributed to delegates via email and included in the summary report of the formal meeting. The Secretariat will also prepare a report of the workshop, which will be circulated at a later date and made available on the SPS events, workshops, and training webpage. We will convene both in person in room W, this one, and via Interprefy for the informal meeting of the SPS committee tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. Geneva time. Once again, thank you, everybody. This thematic workshop on transparency is now closed.